whatever reason, I seem to start my games right about midnight, a little before, just to eke them in and get a registration of, yeah, I played this today instead of a different day. All right, let's see and get this sucker started. We're gonna open up by drawing a chip from here. Let's see, number 25. Nobody's got that high a number this early in the game. This is like Republic of Rome. You can see our highest number, we got a 17 to 20. They actually go significantly higher than the early deck in Republic of Rome, which I think bails out around 16 or so, whatever. Okay. Now we're going to collect some cash. The faction leaders each are going to get $3. And I've placed the traders. Everybody took it on their faction leader. And other folk get $1 each. Now I got to be a little bit more careful because I'm not familiar with this game about following the sequence of play. It's very close, but as we've seen, whether I've diverged from Republic of Rome or whether the rules here are a divergence, one way or another there are some little differences from what I'm used to playing. I probably ought to have my oratories added up. One thing to note, the traders don't add to your voting value, unlike the knights in Rome. A lot of little differences. Treasurer, public buildings, and harbor master get some cash. Harbor master gets 1 for every 4 traders in Carthage. We have 4 traders, so he gets $1 for free. State treasurer, an extra die roll, and receives that number of talents. Adjust the state treasury. I think the adjusting the state treasury just means that's a task for him to do. And he gets paid $6. I don't think he gets in any trouble for that. It's step C where you can do the corruption, and that seems dangerous. Supervisor of public buildings, he gets 1 as well. 2 talents per active war and 1 talent per inactive war. We have an inactive war, so he gets that. Yeah, a little bit of money thrown out, whatever. Nobody's gonna go for corruption. We get $100. I always get confused. ROR has the same thing. It feels like that's how many zeros there should be in it instead of how many digits. I don't know. It's just a weird way of expressing. 2 talents per fleet or army. We don't have a fleet, it seems. So that's 2. That costs us 4. And we're up to there. No wars. No trade fleets or caravans. Let's take a look at how that's expressed in the rules, because I'm a little iffy about that. I don't know how those are supposed to be represented, or if they just are only in play when they're searching things out. I think they're only in play when they're assigned to something. I don't think you get them in a pool the way you do the armies, but maybe I'm mistaken. Govern provinces, that's okay. So we'll take a look at our first governor, Sardinia, Corsica. No reason to take personal income. The state income is minus a die minus 1s, that's $4. And we're going to make a roll to see if he improves it. Nope. And then likewise, coastal Spain, die roll minus 2. No, minus die roll plus 1. It's going to be minus 4 more. One thing to note about this, No, I don't remember what I was going to say. It's getting too late, eh? No. I think governors return at this point. Oh, doesn't seem to be a popularity gain or anything or an influence gain from successfully governing a province. Yeah, that's a little different. Okay, so now the governors lose a job position. And this is going to go here. I don't leave something on him. He's not subject to any kind of prosecution for being a governor unless he cheated. And this one, he's planning on sticking around to try to improve that because he was a less capable leader, I guess. Although that's his faction leader, so you kind of wonder about that. It's kind of odd to have your faction leader be so loyal. It might not be the best of moves because he's hard to take away, but it means if he dies, you get to keep him. But it was probably a mistake to have him there. No bankruptcy. People can throw their money into their treasuries. I don't think that's a wise idea. Might be a wise idea, though, to combine money into a person who has a lot of oratory. So he's going to throw all his money over here. That gives him more of a chance of grabbing someone if they show up in the deck, and also making bids on additional chances. Now this guy has an oratory of 4. He's very appealing. I'll throw all my money here. Nobody, if I'm familiar with the Republic of Rome situation, nobody's really able to steal someone else's senators early in the game. Later on, it becomes more plausible. It's a lot of money here. Maybe enough to actually do something. He's got $10. And we'll shift all this money here. Okay. Make contributions. Carthage doesn't need cash. Nobody's going to buy influence at this point. That kind of makes you a threat. You know what I haven't been paying attention to is what kind of cards I have here. Influence peddling allows you to steal a card from someone else. That can be useful if I remember it. Laws and concession. Nothing too exciting there. Alexander dies. Can only be played after Alexander the Great. Austerity program. Annual revenue increases. The playing faction loses popularity. This starts to get complicated. Maximum number of trade goods is removed from stacks 1 to 6. Oh, half of the maximum number. Remove cards as they return to stacks until 50% is reached. That's going to be kind of tough because you have to know how many are in there or how many are maximum. This is a really unpleasant one. The home suffet loses a popularity at the end of each Senate phase. Well, this law is in effect. I don't know how you get rid of laws either. Because laws just end up, you play them and they take effect. You don't really vote them. There's probably a law to cancel a law that would allow you to get rid of that. All right. What about trade cards? Well, everybody has one trader. So they're each going to get one card. And those are all 1-point cards. Oh, wait. Nah, nobody's got concessions or anything. Collect trade cards for trade concessions. Now, people could trade, but nobody's got enough cards to do so. Remember, you need at least 3. They could sell their trade cards off for $1 each, but it's not really worth it. The overseer of the Agora gets money, but that's over here. That's not going to be an issue. Everybody's got to warehouse their trade cards. They each have one trader, so they can warehouse one card. Redistribute trade income. Nobody made any. If the overseer's term's finished, return office to forum. What about the other offices? I seem to remember having seen something. Committee member terms. They're here. That's where I want to take care of them, in the forum phase. Okay. If there were any table events down there, those are just recording devices. There's essentially cards that handle them. I gotta glue together a bunch of those cards though. Okay. At this point we start with our highest ranking officer in Rome. He rolls 2 dice, and I really have to have 3 dice for this game. I gotta pull another one out. He gets an 8, which means it's not a 7, so he draws a card. And it is a Pyrrhic War. It's active. Have stacks 1, 4, and 5 and a loss. A victory creates Sicily and earns 10 talents. And it removes trade good cards from stacks 1, 4, and 5. It removes 1 from each. 1, 4, and 5. And we're going to have to kind of get used to, there's elements of this that are going to take some getting used to, like those going in and out. I have to remember that in place. But we've got a nasty war here. That kind of makes this war not terribly interesting to me right now. This one's a lot scarier. He gets to persuade a senator. Like I said, trying to go after a player's senator is going to be pretty hard. So here I have an oratory of 4. I could throw in an additional $5. That gives me a 9. But each of the player senators has at least a -10 on them. So that doesn't seem very reasonable. Attract a trader. Well, we roll 2 dice, and I might as well pick my leader. I see no reason not to. So I could pay $5 to get another point of trade. Is that worthwhile? Traders are more valuable than knights. There's no question. But $5 is a lot of money. That's everything I have. I think I'll pass on that. Gonna appoint a new faction leader. And now we go to the next player. And that's over here. He rolls an action. That means a card. And by the way, people could play some of their cards like laws at this point. Second Sicilian War. This one's active too. Uh-oh. Removes 1 trade card from 1, 4, and 5. Oh boy. Now, I think these actually should be tucked under the card which causes the removal. And this is another ugly little war. Both these create Sicily. And they're different kinds of wars. That's kind of weird. Not used to that kind of process in play. I guess if Sicily's created, it doesn't get created again. Okay. Again, persuading a senator. I have the most money. I have $11. If I had a huge oratory, I could go for it. Influence counts into 2, doesn't it? Attract a trader. Oratory and influence, yeah. So I would have been able to actually add this 10 in. That cancels out of players. So I actually have a reasonable amount of money to go for someone. being reasonable here and not doing so. Now, did I forget? Oh, I think so. No, there's no bonus to getting these. You don't get any kind of... This guy gets 5 influence for his office, as does the Marine Suffet, but the others are just apparently cash bonuses. Okay. I can go for a trader. I go for the guy with all the money because he can actually affect that. $4 would get me a trader. I'm going to spend. And he gets a little marker as well. And possible new faction leader. Is this the guy I want? I don't know. I'll move this. There's no games or anything like that. There's no real popularity of the government. Slightly different game. Card. I don't know if I want this. Certainly at this point it doesn't make sense. We get Sinelos. Alright. Well, we're going to try to attract him. We have an oratory of 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 to a loyalty of 8. That only gives me a 5. And if I throw my money in at him, I may end up just losing my money. Do I want to go for this? I don't want. I will now. I'll go for a trader. It's $4. I too will spend to up my traders. When does warehousing happen? It happens back here. I'm going to be drawing 2 more cards. That'll give me 3 cards. I'm going to play the coinage card. Where do laws go? Because I want to be able to do more trade goods. I believe I'm allowed to do these during the forum phase rather than the revolutionary phase for laws. I may be mistaken, but I don't much care. And is this the guy I want in my lead? He's pretty decent. Over to the last player, and he gets a card. And this is Tabnet. They're both loyalty 8. What can I gather here? I've got oratory 7 with influence, 8, 9, 10. 13 to 8 is again a 5. Do I want to go for it? Nah. But I can go for it at low. Yeah, 7 to 8, that's not good. I'll roll for my trader. 7, that would take 5. $5 seems like a lot. I think I'll hold off. And now we're at the bidding phase. And I'm going to do this the way I do bidding for everything. Everybody kind of rolls for a, hey, is it worth it? Now, it's not worth a lot of money to bid on extra turns. One reason, let me see how they actually handle them, how the bidding is handled. It's only once a round, starting with the HRA out. So if he bids nothing, that means he only gets it if no one else bids. But these usually aren't worth too much money. There's, you know, a chance you might get a useful card here, but there's a good chance that that you're not particularly thrilled with what you draw, you know, or that you get an event and that doesn't help you at all. So there's kind of a, okay, what do you want it for? Well, this guy actually is pretty decent with his 10, 14 oratory. He has a fair chance at getting one of these. So I'd say The extra initiative's definitely worth at least $1 for him. Let's see if he wants to go to 2. Nah, he'll just bid $1. Let's see if somebody else goes to 2. This guy's going to go to 2, and he gets it. That mainly is just a preemptive strike to prevent him from getting another character. He gets his card. This is the Atlantic. It'll add some trade goods to the 6 stack if it's done, and I don't know where I can put this. I don't know. There's not a lot of room, and it's not really causing any issues for anyone. Of course, if we have enough cash, we could send out a big trade fleet to handle that under somebody's hands. And now we get to roll for traders. We don't have a chance of getting anyone. $4 more. We buy a trader. $4 seems worth it, 5 not, right? Now we come back to him. He's definitely bidding 1. Does he want to go to 2? Yeah, he's going to go to 2. Any higher? No. What about these guys? He's going to go to 3. Just again denying. And that's kind of dicky. And we get a 7, which means I need more dice. Alright. And here we got to roll a TDR, which stands for 3 die roll. DR, capitalized, stands for 2 dice. It's the same shorthand as Republic of Rome uses. And I get... Is this about safe provinces? What? 12. And I'm in the first deck. Manpower shortage. Cost to purchase new units is doubled on first occurrence. So, what we do is we actually skim through this, and I thought they'd be in fully alphabetical order. I'm not seeing it. I gotta look for them. Most of these events have a card which aligns with them and tells you what happens. The manpower shortage doesn't seem to have one, although the instructions are here. I'm marking it just with this. I might use something else. Republic of Rome has cards for all the events, so I kind of expected that. So that's going to make it more expensive no matter what I buy. The traders, whatever. That makes it all the more unlikely that I'm going to go for the Atlantic expedition. That was over on him, I believe. He's going to roll for what? He's not going to go for oratory. He's going to roll for a trader. 8. That's $4 more. Sure. He'll be getting a nice collection of trade goods in his turn. Aging leaders. If anyone was in here, they'd have a chance of dying. Foreign leaders. Returning senators. We roll to see if they come back. Trade concessions. See if they come back. Now we got to count up votes. Basically, to do this, we just add up the oratory of all the characters, right? Yep. And I will use this and mark it down here for votes. I'm kind of in need of one of my copious breaks, so I marked my time here. But I did tally up the votes. There is a bit of a trick to this, that I'm used to not counting the votes for the governors. Well, the governors in Republic of Rome look like this. They have a term marker and they have an amount of time that they're in position. Unfortunately, in this game, the governorships look exactly like the state treasuries, and that is troublesome. It makes it more difficult to identify who's not in Rome, because the council of 5 also have 3-turn terms, and it just makes life more difficult. Okay, and as we were pretty much halfway through the game turn, let's take a look. Our votes currently, we have 7 and 10. Now these aren't guaranteed votes because people can throw money in and use, I think there are cards that may add votes temporarily. No. I always thought the influence peddling should be votes by the name. So 17, 23, 28. It's going to basically take 15 votes to get a coalition. And I generally play these games as coalitions. People might break a deal every now and then, but usually they're willing to settle. You can see this is what happened. I glued these guys together, most of them. Never good with any kind of... This is why I don't do print in places. I'm so bad at it, but my OCD didn't let me have double-sided things be split. Anyway, the voting... I generally do in coalitions, and then they pretty much stick together. At this early stage in the game, if you screw somebody over, you may end up paying for it for the entirety of the game, and that just sucks. So, our sort of coalition driver is over here, because he's got the HRAL. If he can form a coalition, he's in pretty good shape. And what he sees here is he's got enough votes with the guy next to him. Doesn't feel any particular worry. It's not like, you know, these guys... It's not like there's one person he's trying to make a collusion with who's just so far ahead of everyone else or anything. This seems like sort of the natural agreement. But personalities sometimes don't allow things to work well. So he's going to kind of say, hey, look, I'm the stronger power. You'll be the weaker partner, but we'll pretty much split everything. And he's willing to go along with that. So now here's... I have to look up if there's a penalty for unprosecuted wars. I know there is. But I don't remember what it is. So at this point, we kind of want to cope with the wars that are actual here. The Pyrrhic and the Sicilian War, to whatever extent we can. Now, the numbers there mean, I always have to look it up, I think the 5 is the minimum fleet to handle the war, and the 10 is the amount of ship, is the ship's strength. War cards are spelled out inside. Here they are. Yeah, yeah. So, troops are fairly cheap in this, if I recall correctly. The cost is on the recruiting table. Oh, maybe they're not so cheap. Ouch. Okay, but 10 is what I should be used to. Huh. They don't seem to have any real special abilities, though. So let's see. We have companions that are 9 each. Slingers are 10. And Celtiberians are 8. So that's something to keep in mind. But first we have to decide who's going where. And to do that, Crisis allows 2 commanders to jointly prosecute the same war, and then they'll be added together. The sub-commander is a general. Now, do I have an active strength of war 20 or more? No. These guys are 10, and 10 in the naval is maximum. I gotta think a little bit here. Basically, the problem comes down to not enough military people. And when I look, I've got 2 wars. That's kind of hard to handle. I may not even be able to do that. And that's one thing I have to figure. Let's say I got my whole army into play. I can build as much navy as I like up to my cash, which isn't very high. I'm much poorer than I usually am in Republic of Rome. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I can only handle 1 war. And that's for good. But here's the problem. If this guy takes a Safet position for himself, presumably the home Safet, because he's in charge, who's he going to put in military charge? The deal that he made is with this guy, and he could put Eshmar in charge, but he could get an extra point by putting Barca in charge. I think if we're only going with 1 war, though, we can settle for Eshma being in charge, and we're going to propose Luli and Eshmar as our 2 Safets. And there we clearly have, our military or naval marine Safet selected over here with Eshmar. We may actually find that we don't have enough positions to fill everything we have. The Overseer of the Agora, coastal Spain, that gives me 2 more positions. I think we can fill everything out under those conditions with our own people. So, let us make that proposal. And here's the thing. If that fails, other people may have things to gain. On the other hand, it's possible that these 2 both become Safet. So the idea of using public outcry at this moment seems somewhat iffy, but maybe not impossible to do, maybe not unreasonable in total. So let's check. Okay. So this guy, when he gets called on to vote, is going to play this public outcry, and he's going to essentially cancel that possibility. Now he's got a problem. He can't be elected to consecutive terms, although I don't think that's... I think there's evidence that that's not the case at Carthage, but we'll play with the rules. Luli here was selected. I can't pick him because he's got a position. So now I could pick another pair. I really don't want to go to a 1 military rating. And this guy's saying, look, put Barca in charge. He's good. Put Barca in charge. Well, that may be the case, but I think we have to make a decision here. If we select Luli and Barca, will he still accept it? No, he will not. Will this guy accept such a deal in exchange for an additional office, not a governorship for himself? No. This is not going well. Will they give me the office and the governorship in exchange for making them the 2 Safets? They're willing to agree to that. So that public outcry actually did something. As you get more and more unassigned people, although the governorships help with making more people assigned, it gets hard to find a set that'll take something. So I'm going to suggest Bostar and Barca. And he's got a public outcry, but he doesn't feel like he's got a chance here. If it's not Bostar and Barca, it might end up being Barca and Luli. He can't cancel everything out. So this is going to actually pass. And Bostar becomes the home Safet. They're going to agree to split it this way. They don't have to. They could dice for it and gets 5. And the Marine Safet goes to the Barca family. And they also get 5 influence. Now let's see what our next step is here that we have to do. We have it here. Fill the committee memberships. There's one left, the overseer of the Agora. I can't get things passed without his help. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick, we don't want to use Mago because he's got good military. We're going to give this to Luli. And he gets, so this is a problem. I can't put the term marker here. Everybody's got to go down in their term at this point. It doesn't make sense if it's not, which means there's another position available. Supervisor of Public Buildings. And State Treasurer. Now these can be repeated. I don't know when that was supposed to happen, that those got dumped down. But they shouldn't be getting any income. That should have happened probably when they got their income. And the one that doesn't, yeah, advanced committee membership terms just happened here. Now we fill the vacant committee memberships. And we handed him overseer of the Agora. These we can assign as a package. That is allowable, I believe. Is it not? Looks like they actually have to be done one at a time. Sending Mago off to coastal Spain seems like kind of a waste, but we promised him something. So we are going to take Elarim and Mangi. We're going to take these 2 positions. Now this one gets extra bucks, and this one gets money for wars. The money for wars looks bigger, so the home suffragette is going to suggest this one for himself, and that is acceptable. Is it? Why should I vote that shit up? I mean, I handed them this in exchange for positions. I expect one of these rather than coastal Spain. Okay, we will give you the secondary one, the state treasurer, and I don't know if we really want to give a governorship to someone, but the supervisor of public buildings seems cooler because there's a lot of trouble going on. They'll vote that in favor. Coastal Spain is going to go here. They allow that to be passed. Now, he's just been sent off to coastal Spain, and he had an oratory of 1, so the vote is now down to 5 for him. And now here's the problem. I propose Mago for state treasurer. If he gets vetoed, he can't have this job. These guys are willing to give it to him. The question is this guy willing to play his one public outrage? Because if he does, he pisses him off a little bit. And this guy's probably willing to support Malchus up here instead for it. However, we're at 27, so it takes more than just the 2 of them. That seems like maybe an increase here. So, is this guy able to, does he think he's able to cut a deal? Yeah, he's going to hold off. The problem is those public outcry cards, they become less valuable, like I say. Right now it feels like they have a lot of value because there's a limited number of senators available. There's another problem. The position could just be given to one of these buttheads, right? Yeah. So, Mago will be voted in as state treasurer. And again, I'm not doing the votes in a blown out manner. Let's show what this vote goes as. So our highest ranking officer in Rome, because this is what you would be doing in a real game, is over here. And he would make the proposal. I propose that Mago be the state treasurer. Allows some debate and discussion if he wishes, and then he says, okay, vote. And this guy says 7 votes against, right? Then he turns and says, vote. 5 votes in favor. Vote. 10 votes in favor. So now it's 15-7. Doesn't really matter where he votes. He'll vote 5 in favor as well. It passes. If this guy had wanted to jump in, when he was told to vote, he could play this and prevent that resolution from happening. Alternatively, if, let's say it started to get voted down, let's say he went here and said vote, 7 against, vote, 5 against, now it's 12 against, vote, 10 in favor, and now he has the option to cancel, to destroy his particular suggestion. This is actually a useful thing, is to put suggestions that people will refuse up. I don't think there's a penalty for it in this one. There's a penalty for it in Republic of Rome if everyone votes against, except for you, against a proposal. But there's no real penalty to a proposal just failing in general. So there become all these kind of interesting machinations that I seldomly see those used, but quite often I do see the propose something you don't want to see happen, vote it down, and then it's excluded from happening, and you work your way down to being the last man standing who can hold the job. Okay. That's going to put us to prosecutions, and that seems like a good place to break a little. First turn of the game, I'm actually not even sure that there is a possibility to do a prosecution if nobody took money. In particular, the eligibility for a major prosecution is that the suffragette, or General Expedition Commander, on the last turn. Well, there was no last turn, so that doesn't actually exist. It's a possibility if somebody takes a personal income. However, you could say, well, this guy was suffragette, he's, eligible to be prosecuted. Certainly, he's not going to prosecute his own side, though, so we don't have to worry about it too much here. And it would kind of make sense not to allow that prosecution because the person didn't perform any actions with the ability. But whatever, it makes sense the other way too. It doesn't have to be. There doesn't have to be a reason to prosecute someone. You don't have to say, "Well, you mismanaged the government." You could just say it. You know what? I think I filled the governorship already. We handed that out here. That shouldn't have been done yet. Now we take a look at how many senators there are in Carthage, but there's no one to repopulate with, so it's not really an issue. However, we might actually be close. 1, 2, 3. Geez, these things look like governorships. 4. Yeah, there's at least 8. Okay. Now we need to build an army. And we really kind of have to build as much as we can. So, minimum, the smallest fleet requirement strikes me as... We could actually do this by just beating the fleet first. The smallest fleet requirement says we have a 7 fleet. Barca would be going. He has a 3 military. That puts us to a 10. Wow. That puts us to a -4. We take that off here. And then let's start building a fleet that gets us there. So if we built this entire fleet for $80 or $88, they cost us $9 each. We'd be able to buy only 9 ships. We'd have a 12 strength then against a 7, which would give us a +5 on the 3 dice. A +5 on the 3 dice is not all that perfect, to tell you the truth. Let's say we roll an average of around 10. Well, we'll get a bad result. But if we roll an average around a 10 with 5 fleets, with 10 fleets, we are at +6, 9 fleets, +5. We'll be in the 15 range, which is right around the victory range. So I think all we really can do is win a naval battle here. Now, I believe that you can prosecute wars in that way. I'm going to go with, because there are hints in that direction, but I don't think it specifies it quite as much. The Republic of Rome rules here, where you can fight just the naval combat, win that, and go forward. I'm not going to look that up because I know nothing shocked me as being opposite that. So what we're going to do is we're going to build Barca a fleet. And we're going to give him 9 ships. Now this is kind of dangerous because we're not going to be able to take this war out. And I guess we'll send that out into the Second Sicilian War. That means the Pyrrhic War is going to move into unactive. And that just ties things down, but we're not really doing much more here. Do we have income listed somewhere? No, we don't have the effects of income on the chart. They're in the rules, but... so I say we have 9 ships. We go up to 12 for Barca. And we have to worry about a 9, 10, or 16. We're not ready to send this out. Let's make sure there's nothing else we want to do. Okay, so we can declare that we're going... no, this is the expedition. So it looks to me like the expedition is just sent out with the number of caravans, etc. that it is sent with. And when they return, I don't think they return... We'll see how that is. Hey, we don't have a starting tax rate. Let's vote a tax rate into play. Now, if you get really a nice little indication of the desires and effects of taxes on investment in this game, which is kind of cute. You have nothing like that in Republic of Rome. But here, the players get to set their own tax rate. Kind of reminds me of Crusoe's Planet in this sense, except it's a simplified version here. The players have a chance to set their own tax rate. Now remember, they're willing to invest money to create more traders, which creates more cash, which creates more tax flow. It also creates cash into their own pockets, which they could use, in philanthropic type endeavors. In this game, that's really only just contributions in exchange for influence. But if the government's in really bad financial shape, and it looks like it kind of is, you might want a lot of cash in people's hands. Taxes is just based on the business people do through their trade. Therefore, if you inhibit the investments in that, you're going to cause problems. Do we want a tax rate is the first issue. We get $100 for free every turn, but that's all we get. We don't have provinces and such, not that are, well, we have the governorships, which can make us some money. I think we're going to not raise taxes. I think the feeling is we might be in enough trouble that we don't want the burden of a government in place. We want to rely on goodwill and philanthropy and people buying influence to run the government. I don't think we have anything else to do here. So we go to the combat phase. Okay. So we're going to be rolling, and I don't see the difference between the naval and the land war. Again, you know, to a large extent, these rules are much better than the Republic of Rome ones in terms of expressing things clearly and in an easy to find manner. But I don't think everything's been nailed down quite as much as you would expect in something, you know, that say was a published and sold game. But, you know, it's print and play, and it's largely intended for people, I think, who already like Republic of Rome, and it'll give you a fair, you know, you might be a little questioning, well, how do I handle the naval combat, etc. Well, I'm helping you see that, and we can. So, for example, here they say, unless the battle was a fleet action and there are armies continuing to the land war, return fleets to Carthage. So there's obviously an indication that you can do this fleet battle. What I don't think is there is what happens if you win just the fleet battle, and I have to extrapolate that really from Republic of Rome. And just, you know, minor things that probably should need to be corrected if this does ever actually. I think this has copyright issues if it tries to be sold, actually, but because it is so derivative. But cool. So what were our totals here? Our totals were 9, 12, minus 7 is plus 5 on the combat table. So we roll the dice, and we get a 14. So the first thing we got to do is we got to make sure we didn't have a 14 up here. We don't. So that's good. So 14 plus 5 gives us 19. We have a total victory with no losses. Unfortunately, I don't have my naval victory markers from Republic of Rome sitting around, and there's nothing equivalent to that in the counters that I'm aware of. Maybe there was over in the money or something that I could use it for, but these are trade goods. Yeah, I don't think there was anything to mark a naval victory. Kind of like the manpower losses, those are counters that are in the Republic of Rome. I'm going to just use this to indicate that the naval battle has been beaten. And we get, again, following purely ROR rules here, I think, influence and popularity equal to half the war. Well, they beat the Navy, that's worth something. So he gets 3 points of influence, which puts him up to a 12 there. And 3 points of popularity, which gets him some popularity. Like I said, popularity is a lot less important in this game than in the other. Now, he's actually got to return his fleet back. And we got some definite problems. I didn't want to send land units because this is all I had. Had I sent them, I would have been attacking at 5 to 10, which would be minus 5 to the die roll. There's a very unlikely that I'm going to get any success on that. You might want to send somebody out with a definite loss like that, just to kill them off. But nobody's feeling that dicky right now in the game. Okay. Now see here. See, this is the difference. Unless the battle was a fleet action in which there are armies continuing to the land war, return fleets to Carthage. Yeah, I think this was just intended for a fleet war that we'd have to assign somebody new. We can't leave Barca out there in command of the fleet and then reinforce him with armies. He didn't have enough armies to go in there and fight it. But basically, I'm kind of making this up based on what you can do in Republic of Rome, where you would stay out on the war card in that condition. Okay, now I got to look through all the different intrigue cards and see if anybody has any they want to play. And you're allowed to hold up to 5 of them. So I can play this grain shortage. That doesn't really sound terribly valuable. The number in the stack. Are events? Well, let me see if events are intrigue cards. They look like it because they're red, but I'm a little iffy. So I'm not used to things that look quite like that. All right, I'm gonna have to look for this. To start things off, the event cards should not have been dealt out at the beginning of the game. They should have been included in the deck, I think. However, when you draw a card, you place it according to type. Events are not actually covered in the types. So maybe this is an intrigue card when it... See, they talk about them differently here. Events, statesmen, laws, explorers, enemy leaders, intrigues. So I don't think it's supposed to be an intrigue card. And in the list of what you hand out to the players, the events are not included in there. So I screwed up with that. But the problem is, I don't have a clear indication of how those are meant to be used. Given their red coloring, I think they're hold cards. I think I'm going to let them sit in people's hands as I dealt them out, just so that I don't have to go back. I think they're intended to be played by the player. However, exactly when is not entirely clear. So during the revolution phase, statesmen can be played at this time, but there's no real statement about when laws and events get played. Now I'm doing laws during the forum phase because I think that's the correct use in Republic of Rome. These events almost feel like they should be able to be played during the forum phase as well. They're not played onto you. Anyway, as I look through these, there's nothing I terribly want to play here. But he's got a trade concession. This allows each turn the faction gets an extra trade good card from the 5 stack. Now I only have 3 trade goods, so there might be a reason not to play this until we start getting larger total numbers of trade goods, because there's danger to whoever is holding these valuable items. On the other hand, they are worth 5 extra bucks a turn, and that's pretty useful. So on odd, I'm going to have him play that, and he is. He'll give it to his suffet, or suffragette, or whatever. Ah, shit. Yeah, these cards are not as sturdy as your poker cards in your Republic of Rome. You may want to print them on a sturdier stock. They're also shaped in a way that makes it kind of more difficult. It makes it easier probably to cut them and everything. Here I got a concession as well. This is an 8-track card. Again, it's a decent amount of extra money, but he's going to hold off on playing that. Alexandria is the 4-stack. Athens is the 2-stack. I think those are worth playing without any question. And I want to spread them out so that I don't have too much power on any one person, because then that person becomes an easy target for various things, prosecutions, whatever. So I'd rather put these here. Now, trade concessions I don't think open you up to a prosecution, if I'm correct. Well, I don't think it even if I'm not correct. We are Siamese. Yeah, you're not eligible for trade to get one. And we come back around here and we're fine. What did the grain shortage do? It screws with the trade goods. That's probably not a nice thing to do. So that's kind of a problem with these events. I kind of like the idea of these. I kind of wish these, just when they turned up, they took effect immediately, kind of like the random events table. I think that's actually a better way to do them. But, you know, things like may only be played after Alexander the Great. And certainly you can use them to your advantage. Laws are kind of the same way. You have some control over them. Unfortunately, laws, it almost makes sense that that the players in some way have control over them. I always thought they should vote on them, but events are events. They're things that are beyond the player's control. For example, Alexander dying or a grain shortage or whatever. These things seem kind of strange to have a player holding them and able to use them. But anyway, that's there's nothing like that in Republic of Rome. And I think if I play this again and start modding it from what the intent is, I would make these, this gets redrawn, or this gets drawn and then it takes effect immediately. And for example, in the case of Alexander, probably if Alexander's not out yet, whatever that means, I don't know if he's an event or something else, this would get put at the bottom of the deck and then it would take effect late in the deck if it comes up too early. All right, so we played out the revolution phase. You can't throw a revolt with just navies, so he had to return his navies. And I think we are done with the turn. We haven't seen too many new things here. A little bit. The trade cards, but not as much with them. And we got some difficult war situations. We'll roll into the next turn on the next table.